Welcome back to my channel. It is me, this guy, Ian, here in Beijing, having a little walkabout. Sometimes when I'm walking about, something jogs my memory or something makes me think about stories that I have read that just make me shake my head and laugh a little bit. Came across a story with China and U.S.A. and their relationship, and honestly I just shook my head in disbelief about how childish one side of that relationship can actually be sometimes. I am talking about American foreign policy here, and actually this particular story was about moon rock, space stations and NASA. And as you will hear, America in this instance is deploying some typical exceptionalism that just exposes how childish some of American foreign policies can be towards the rest of the world. It is even more ironic when you think that the USA prides itself on the mantra of openness, capitalism and the power of absolute free market. I could be talking about a number of things here, like sanctions and tightening laws to restrict access to tech and processor chips. Now, I am a grown-up here and I can understand that many countries use trade tariffs, sanctions and other methods to protect themselves and their people. Often though, there is a bit childish behaviour. The king of the school playground and that childish behaviour on this type of attitude and behaviour is America, with its very, I would say, damaging, childlike foreign policy. This is me inside a shopping mall, believe it or not. Pretty bizarre. Very, 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 very common to have a bizarre shopping mall. And this is quite good because my subject for today is to do with this, space. So in 2011, Washington passed a law called the Wolf Law, W-O-L-F. And I thought this law was named after Chinese movies because there are a famous series of movies in China called Wolf Warrior. They're actually very, very good. I recommend them. But no, this law is named after a Republican senator. Yep, a Republican senator called Frank Law, who I'm guessing must be super proud of himself and of the fact that he had passed a law that has not helped advance the human race. But then again, maybe it did, because the Wolf Law was to prevent China working with NASA on space exploration and also to prevent access to other space research, information, data and also space technology. More importantly, it stopped China from having access to the International Space Station. But all this didn't deter China as they went on to build their own space station and to continue to explore space and the moon with further rocket launches and space expeditions. the Chinese actually went on to build a space station, which is very impressive, much more modern, comfortable and advanced than the International Space Station. And in fact, the International Space Station is coming to the end of its usable life. So the only space station in operation will be the one built by China. I'll come closer because it's noisy here, but China has continued to explore space as is their want and their right. And in 2020, they launched a spacecraft on the far side of the moon, and that spacecraft brought back valuable lunar rock samples. And this is important because the far side of the moon, or the dark side of the moon, has not been investigated by any other mission, and the research in that part, or on that part of the moon, is extremely limited. In August of this year, the China National Space Administration opened up applications from foreign scientists to borrow samples of this moon rock so they could do research using their knowledge. And in a way, this is using the combined brain power of humans to investigate and discover things that we may not know yet about the universe, about our moon, and also about how life itself came into play. Now this is a good thing. Now, typically this would be a good thing. Obviously, all of humanity would benefit from that. But because of the Wolf Law, passed by American Congress to apparently protect American home security or interests, or whatever we usually say, NASA cannot work with China with this new rock. And so, technically, they cannot get access to the moon rock from the far side of the moon, and so cannot do their own research to benefit themselves and humanity. However, desperate to be part of the important research, NASA have told Congress that they intend to ignore the Wolf Law, and they filed an application with China's Space Administration to get access to the moon rock. Remember here, this application would actually be illegal under the law passed by the US Congress back in 2011. But as we know, America likes to bend rules, laws and policies to suit themselves, and often say to hell with the other countries. So it is okay for NASA to come back begging for access. And in this instance, China could say no thank you and cut America out of this very important and historical research. But as of this week, China, being the adult in the playground, has granted access to NASA to study some of the samples of the moon rock that could hold a key to many great discoveries. Yet again, China displaying a sensible approach to geopolitics. And this is a great thing, and it reflects the power of having China and the U.S.A. working together. This whole story reminds me of playing football down the park when I was a kid. We would be playing football or soccer for my American friends. We would be 15 aside because we're just kids, no rules, but a whole lot of fun. But the match would come to a sudden halt because the person who owned the football would get a tackle that they would deem as a bad tackle. Everyone else would say it was never a bad tackle and let's just continue the game. But no, this guy would walk off in a huff and take his football with him, and maybe a couple of other guys would follow him, hoping to get another game of football going somewhere else. Can't quite remember their names. Maybe they were called Billy Britain, Andy Australia, and Colin Canada, and a couple of others. Anyway, we soon borrowed another football from somewhere else and got the game started, and great fun was had by all. But within an hour, the guy and the stragglers that walked away off in a huff, they would be back begging to join the football match that the group of us had started back up again. Of course, because we were mature kids, sensible, and we also like to have a good, fair game of football, we let Annie America, Billy Britain, Andy Australia, Colin Canada and the others rejoin the football game. The irony, however, is that the ball that they took away with them when they left in a huff, which at that time was a better football, they didn't bring it back. They left that ball securely back in their house. Typical of that childish mindset that you come across when you're growing up. Anyway, this is me, Ian here. Thanks for tuning in to my channel. As always, take care of yourself, your family, and your community. This is me having a ball, walking around Beijing, saying as always, hot, peace out. I'll catch you in the next update. Interesting.
Now may my moments for the moon. Now may my moments for the moon. How many covers over man? They turn us to the moon. Butterfly will pass on the moon. Here we go, this is rock and roll. I still remember the moon. Do you still remember the Lama Temple? I still remember